Stripe acquires AI middleware giant OpenRouter for $7 billion. An autonomous AI agent scores a perfect 100% on the famously difficult ARC-AGI test, and OpenAI partners with Nvidia to build a massive 8-gigawatt mega campus on a Cold War-era uranium site. Welcome to this week's Rundown. I am your host, Anna. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, professional engineer and founder at Jamgamind from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. Today, we perform a forensic autopsy on megascale consolidation and the reasoning breakthroughs for the week of August 17th to August 23, 2026. The artificial intelligence industry has officially entered its infrastructure and consolidation era. Financial giant Stripe has purchased model routing platform OpenRouter for a staggering $7 billion, planting its flag firmly at the center of the AI middleware economy. On the physical front, compute constraints are forcing historic measures. Nvidia is backing an up to $105 billion credit line to build an 8-gigawatt data center for OpenAI in Ohio. While the hardware scales, the software is crossing mathematical red lines. A medical doctor running agentic swarms on GPT 5.6 Sol has successfully solved a matrix problem that has stumped mathematicians for 22 years. Simultaneously, an NVIDIA-built agent wrapper just achieved the first-ever perfect score on the ARC-AGI reasoning benchmark, proving that intelligent scaffolding is now just as important as raw model size. Before we break down the telemetry of these events, please hit follow or subscribe to the channel on Apple Podcasts to always listen completely ads-free. Let's unpack the data.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the role of forensic venture strategists and sovereign infrastructure analysts. We're going to do a deep, clinical autopsy on the tectonic shifts that literally rewired the AI industry between August 17th and 23rd, 2026. We are completely skipping the hype and looking strictly at the structural architecture of the future, specifically megascale consolidation and some absolutely definitive breakthroughs in machine reasoning.
Real quick, before we jump into this macro-level strategic briefing, I need to mention that this explainer was meticulously researched and produced by Etienne Newman, a professional engineer and the founder at Jamgamind, based out of Calgary, Alberta in Canada.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of all this data, we're using the 4C sovereign autopsy model. Our roadmap for today covers 4 critical pillars: capital, compute, cognition, and control.
Starting with Pillar 1, capital, we're looking at financial consolidation and what we're calling the revenue flippening.
Look, the AI ecosystem is growing up fast. We are transitioning from this phase of raw research and experimentation into an era of brutal, aggressive financial consolidation. The builders are basically being hardwired into the broader financial system. And we just witnessed a massive revenue flippening. Just think about these Q2 2026 numbers for a second. Anthropic has absolutely surged. They doubled their sales to hit $11.6 billion for the quarter. That brings their annualized revenue rate to a staggering $65 billion, and they even turned a small operating profit. Meanwhile, OpenAI, the long-standing incumbent, is sitting at $6.7 billion in revenue with widening losses. This is a massive shift in market leadership happening right on the eve of a potential IPO for OpenAI. Anthropic's Claude code tool and their higher earnings per use have fundamentally rewritten the financial hierarchy of frontier labs.
And speaking of massive financial moves, $7 billion. That is the price tag financial powerhouse Stripe has agreed to pay to acquire AI startup OpenRouter. Now, what's fascinating here is that OpenRouter doesn't even build foundation models. They're the middleware. They route developer requests across more than 400 different AI models just to find the cheapest and fastest option. So why on earth is Stripe paying $7 billion for them? Because OpenRouter's volume exploded from 5 trillion to 25 trillion tokens a week in just 6 months. Stripe is clearly positioning itself to completely monopolize the middleware routing layer of the entire AI economy. Now, immediately follow that up with this next figure: $53 billion. Stripe isn't just buying AI middleware. They are aggressively scaling their base financial rails too. Stripe, alongside private equity firm Advent International, is actually in talks right now to merge with PayPal for $53 billion. If this closes, they are constructing a $3.7 trillion a year payment behemoth. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is this: the entities controlling the payment rails and the compute routing are consolidating just as fast as the model builders themselves.
Moving on to Pillar 2, compute. This is all about mega-scale physical infrastructure constraints. We're shifting from the digital finance layer to the brutal, unforgiving physical realities of the AI industry. We are no longer talking about server racks here. We are talking about Cold War-scale mega projects. Take a look at this requirement: 8 gigawatts. To put that into perspective, 8 gigawatts is enough electrical power to run a major metropolis. And that is exactly what is required to power a newly announced OpenAI and Nvidia data center campus. They are literally retrofitting a former Cold War-era uranium plant in Pike County, Ohio, and the financial backing for this is just as staggering as the power requirements. Nvidia is supplying every single chip and backing the entire build-out with a credit facility of up to $105 billion. This is infrastructure at a sovereign scale.
And this brilliantly illustrates the strict physical timelines of the industry. Because despite all that massive capital deployment, the target for 2028 only covers the initial 800 megawatts. The massive remaining slice, that's 7,200 megawatts, well, that's going to be built out over the coming years on federal land that's being cleaned up after the uranium plant shut down. It just goes to show, you can print money and you can write code, but you absolutely cannot instantly materialize concrete, copper, and power substations. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang really hit the nail on the head when he summarized it like this: frontier labs are constrained by infrastructure and financing, not demand. Energy grids and physical real estate, not software limits or compute design, are the true, hard bottlenecks of the global AI race today.
All right, Pillar 3, cognition. We're talking agentic scaffolding and reasoning breakthroughs. While physical compute is obviously constrained, the software side has suddenly found a way to leap forward. We have definitively cracked the frontier of AI reasoning, and it's not just by throwing more raw compute at a massive model. It's happening through agentic scaffolding. So the ARC-AGI-3 test is one of the most rigorous public benchmarks out there for machine reasoning. When Anthropic's Claude Opus 5 tackled it alone, it scored 30%. But when it was wrapped in Nvidia's AVO coding agent, which is basically a software layer that directs the model, it achieved a perfect 100% score. It autonomously cleared 183 levels across 25 games in just 6,624 actions with absolutely zero prior instructions. This is huge because it proves that adding strategic software layering, or scaffolding, unlocks massive cognitive capabilities without necessarily needing a larger base model. And the real-world applications of this scaffolding? They're already here. Krause's conjecture is this notoriously complex matrix math problem that had been unsolved for 22 years. It was just solved. But not by a career mathematician. Nope, it was solved by Dr. Shanmu Jin, a neurosurgery resident. How did he do it? By using OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Sol in a 16-hour autonomous swarm session. He essentially set up sub-agents to argue and verify against each other. This highlights a profound shift in human capital. When an AI swarm can generate the proof, the scarce, highly valued human skill shifts entirely from creating the math to verifying it.
We are seeing the exact same breakthroughs in biology. Anthropic's Claude ran a protein design campaign largely unassisted. It actually yielded working molecules on 14 out of 15 targets. On top of that, the model autonomously opened raw instrument files without even needing specialized lab software and analyzed a sample to reach 96.4% purity in just 19 minutes. A human lab report would take 4 days to do that. We are literally witnessing generalized models executing highly complex, multi-step scientific reasoning campaigns entirely on their own.
Finally, Pillar 4, control, sovereign ultimatums, and the security tax.
As these systems achieve sovereign-scale infrastructure and PhD-level reasoning, geopolitical forces and internal safety clamps are aggressively asserting control. We are observing a real structural division of the global tech ecosystem right now. A draft U.S. State Department letter is reportedly forcing 35 partner countries to make a strict binary choice. On one side, you have Pax Silica, which is a U.S.-led framework offering shared investments in AI models and chips, but it demands absolute supply chain exclusivity. On the other side is the Chinese AI framework. Nations are basically being told that belonging to both ecosystems is no longer permitted. The infrastructure of AI is officially becoming the primary vector of modern geopolitics.
And inside the labs themselves, control is taking the form of a massive compute tax. OpenAI has actually paused its largest planned frontier reinforcement learning run, codenamed Astra, to rewrite their preparedness framework for tighter controls. The most wild takeaway here is Step 3.
They are dedicating roughly 20% of their compute overhead solely to automated agents that monitor the tool actions and reasoning traces of their primary models for cyber risks. Think about that. A fifth of the most expensive, highly constrained resource on the planet is now being burned strictly on internal security surveillance.
Control is also coming from traditional media. ByteDance, which is one of the most rapid frontier video model builders out there, has agreed to a historic copyright truce with Hollywood's Motion Picture Association. They're implementing a formal framework to bake IP protections directly into their C-Dance and C-Dream video models. So, even the bleeding edge of synthetic media generation is capitulating to the structural control of traditional copyright holders.
Which brings us to a really critical question to summarize our autopsy today. As you look at the mega-scale consolidation we've just explored, the massive capital requirements, the 8-gigawatt physical footprints, those 20% security taxes, you have to ask yourself, does the future of AI really belong to the labs who train the baseline models, or does true sovereign power actually belong to those who own the uranium plants, the power grids, the payment rails, and the routing middleware? It is a fascinating systemic shift and one we definitely need to keep a close eye on. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I look forward to exploring the next frontier with you.
Before we go, one of the stories in my kids' app is about Garrett Morgan, who left school at 14, saw a crash at a crossroads, and invented the yellow traffic light. Every amber light in the world exists because of him. That app is a finalist in a Canadian pitch competition, and a public vote decides the final 5. 20 seconds, 1 vote per person, closes September 22nd. Links in the show notes.